Well, hello there, everybody. Welcome back to Office Hours. Nick, we have a whole new world today.
It's a new dawn.
It's a new dawn. We are continuing our Creative Basics series. Again, we're taking you from novice to no fear in less than 1 year. But we are going to continue the Creative Basics. And Nick, what are we switching to? It is a whole new zone for us.
Yeah, let's just completely do a 180 here and go back to something. I think it's our favorite thing to do when it comes to like graphic design, things that are the fundamentals of branding and everything we get to do. This is our 5-week logo course. So we are starting it off today and cannot wait to talk to you guys about this kind of stuff. Man, I don't even know if 5 weeks is enough.
I don't either. Sorry. I was definitely listening to what you're saying, but my mic was in frame and I had to figure out where it was below. So sorry if you got distracted by my weird hand motion. All right. So let's go ahead and hop in. And the first thing that I want to do is something very special that we do here on this show. I think we're the only show that does it. And it's something that lives right down here, right down below me. It is discord.gg/ACC, and that stands for Adobe Creative Careers. So if you want to go there, we actually have a Discord channel that we can all be a part of. And today, if you want to follow along, we've got all of our slides for you. There's a ton of great information. And Nick, on this show the last couple of weeks, we've been really hands-on. But today, what's the vibe for today?
Ooh. This is all about just lesson, lecture. We're going to go do a little history into what logos really mean, where they come from. You've got a lot of great stuff on that. And then we're going to talk a little bit about slides, and our slides are all about logos today and how we're actually still using them to create and start the whole conversation of branding.
Yep. So we have a ton of conversation today. It's going to be a fun time. I do want you to join us in that conversation, again, by going to Discord. And we have a voice chat. It is just classroom chat right here. And that voice chat is happening during the show live. If you're watching this on YouTube as a replay, hi, hello. Thanks for joining us. Join us 2:30 p.m. Pacific time.
Every Friday.
Every Friday, behance.net/Adobe Live. But we have a voice chat here. And at the end of the show, we're going to want to bring you on to give your opinions about logos, what you think about logos, your favorite logos. So go join that voice chat, hang out, say hi to our friend Elizabeth. And at the end of the show, we'll try to bring some of you on, talk about logos a little bit.
That'd be a great idea to get everybody's like impressions of like which ones are their favorites, what have stood the test of time.
Yes.
So start thinking about like those logos that you really, really appreciate and just see. I think sometimes they're not actually I don't want to say the best design ones, but they're those ones that like you always admire when you look at. They've stood the test of time. Those are my favorites.
Yep,
yeah.
Me too. And we have a couple people in our live chat that I do want to say hi to. Gabriel Wiesen from Chile. Ooh, nice to see you here.
Excellent.
And we have Chris, of course, hanging out. So if you are in the live chat, give me a wave emoji. If you're watching on YouTube, drop your favorite logo down in the comments. Let us know what your favorite logo is down in the comments. And Nick, with that, let's stop talking and start talking. that's the only transition I have.
Guys, we're going to stop talking, but let's go talk about logos.
Yeah, no more announcements, but we do have more logos. I love that there's a read more button on here that like doesn't go anywhere. Just imagine that that's not there. If you're just getting into office hours, welcome to the vibe of office hours. It's a very beautiful dumpster fire.
Put together moments ago.
Yeah. There's fireworks flying, but you're like, wow. And you're like, is this dangerous? Yes, is the answer.
Yes, it is.
All right. So Nick, let's hop in. What are we talking about today? It is continuing our Creative Basics 101, but we're switching up to logos. What's up?
Yeah, so let's get into this. It's kind of everything about the fundamentals of logos, where they come from, how we're using them today. Next week and down the road, we're going to get into some really cool stuff more specifically. But today it's kind of a really just good overview, right? We're going to kind of show you what we kind of use as our own principles, but also what we can learn from particularly a lot of the stuff in the past and the history that I think you're going to show in the first few slides.
Yep, absolutely. Correct? Yep. And someone in the live chat said "Longo on logos," and I had to just like that's our slide now. That is the deck. Absolutely. So of the two of us, we want to give a little bit of context. So of the two of us, Nick, you're probably more the logo guy, right? When it comes to
Probably, I would
actual like
say.
work and design, I would say too,
Yeah.
I love to work on more like type work. So we're going to go through this, give a little bit of context, and we'll show our favorite logos at the end so that as
Yeah.
we go into the next few weeks, it'll be easy for you guys to understand where we're coming from, which will be
Yeah.
great. So
Yeah, I would. I think you're right. I would say like I think a logo is always at the front and center of maybe a project I'm doing, like either from scratch, revised, revamped, you name it.
Yep.
To me, that's kind of where it starts.
Yep, and
Yeah.
type and lettering is where I start every time.
There you go.
All right, so let's talk about logos. Logos forever. This is important. So I have taught design history for a long, long time, and it's interesting to me when we talk about logos, right? You think of logos only be this kind of like recent modern thing, right? You're like, ooh, the hottest tech companies have these really cool logos. And no, logos have existed since the beginning of recorded history, right? Going all the way back to like ancient Egypt, they had logos. And so this is kind of a broad timeline of where logos have come from. And hopefully we'll give you some context as we move into this and talk about logos, about why logos work the way they do now, because everything was influenced from the past. So Nick, do you know anything about ancient Egypt? What do you know about ancient Egypt?
Everything you have taught in the last previous
Love that. Nick is just like
office hours
locked it into
shows.
his brain.
Yeah.
Yes. So
But I'm very curious because like to me, what I can appreciate is the fact that this had to do exactly the same job that a logo does. It has to represent something in a symbol, not so much a language, correct?
yes, absolutely. And that's kind of the core of where I think logo stemmed from was this first thing that we see here that's a scarab seal. So this is something that like a pharaoh or a high-ranking official would have, and they would have it, and they often wear it as a ring, but they would press it into clay and documents and papyrus. They would press it in, and this is way before the movable printing press, but it would have a carving on it, and you would see that and know that it was an official decree or something that was from that pharaoh. And to me, that's what logos are, right, Nick? Like the logo
Yeah.
is the thing that you slap on to know that it belongs to a company, a person, right?
Yeah, it's like a seal of approval. It's like property of, right? It's all of that.
Yep, absolutely. So from there, we moved into the medieval times, medieval heraldry. If you've ever seen this, there's a lot of animals. There's a lot of kind of symbolism happening. And these represented families, right? So we've moved from a person who was pharaoh that had like a mark on the scarab. Then we moved into this medieval heraldry that represented an area, a location, or a family, right? So we're starting to get a little bit larger. And this is something that heraldry had a lot of animal imagery because it was trying to reference things that already existed, right? We don't see a lot of heraldry that is just like random shapes and symbols. Most of them are icons, which we'll talk about in a second, because we hadn't quite evolved the system into this abstractness.
It has to associate to something that you know. And
Yes, it has to feel familiar.
Perfect.
Yep. And so after medieval, we went on, and I'm like, this is the biggest paraphrase ever. But we moved into
Yada, yada, yada.
Yada, yada, yada. Printers started using marks to recognize where things were printed and what kind of paper was being made, who was making that paper. And so we see down here that printers' marks are kind of when we started to evolve into that symbolism, right? None of these are things that you see, right? Maybe it's a flower, maybe, but none of them represent, right, that we don't have like a rabbit or like a guy on a horse, right? And so it started to abstract and it started to create these symbols that like represented something. And this was huge in the printing zone. They would often press it into paper. They would put it so that it was in the corner. And we still see this a lot with artists, right? They'll sign it in the corner. They'll have some kind of logo to put in there. If you want extra credit, Nick, have you ever seen Saul Bass's signature?
Ooh, I'm sure I have.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll go back once we finish
find
this,
it.
and I'll show you because it's fantastic.
You know what's interesting? The way you said this about the paper thing, it's exactly the same as today where you see the little insignia of, I mean, look at what we're doing on our screen. Look at what any major network does on the bottom of their screen, right? Like, it's that identifiable feature.
Yep, absolutely. Look at the corners of our screen. those are logos, and they're identifying features for this show, right? And it all carries over.
Exactly.
So from there, oh, and someone in the live chat is saying old Japanese districts and clans had very nice logos, very concrete and symmetrical images, and very, very well composed. Yes, yes. And Trey is saying watermarks. That is where watermarks come from. Watermarks come from those printers' marks. They would put them on the paper so you couldn't see it unless you like held it up. Then it would be in there. Watermarks do come from that evolution of logos.
I remember the like resume paper. You're always like, if you ever want to know, just hold up a piece of paper and you'll see the little watermark inside there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So from there, advertising really took off. And if you've ever wondered why we still have color printing, it's because of circuses. I know this is really crazy, but the reason that color printing still exists, it was really expensive and it was hard to do, and it started to kind of fade away. Printing wasn't something that people were excited about. And so because of advertising, specifically of circuses and traveling circuses, they started using type in giant sizes, bright colors, and it really saved printing. And so with that, the dawn of advertising, we started to get these lettering pieces, right, that communicated very clearly and were huge advertisements. Coca-Cola is like one of the most famous when it comes to lettering. And so we started to see logos evolve into that letter mark, right? And it's a combination of these things we've seen before, but it started to evolve. And then we get to the digital revolution where logos can explode, be blown apart, be taken into pieces. And we get things like MTV that happened kind of in the, I believe, 80s, this rebrand happened. And it's a combination of all these pieces, right? It's got the symbols, it's got the lettering, it's got the icons, a little bit of everything incorporated into digital revolution.
It actually became alive too. Like if you think about what both printing and digital did for logo design, it's pretty incredible how they were big game changers for everything that came and followed after that. I love how logos can now animate and move and become personality just because we can now do them digitally and we don't have to worry about the staticness of printing.
Yep, absolutely. I'm going to look up Saul Bass's signature so that you guys can see it. And y'all are lucky you dodged a big sneeze from me. All right. So this is Saul Bass's signature. It's my favorite thing I've ever seen in my life. And he had a stamp. So he would sign it and they had a stamp that he would stamp next to it. And this, again, is exactly the same thing that we look at here with the scarab seal, right? And it's just adapted to the time.
Love it.
Look at that.
So good.
Magic. So
and it's Saul Bass.
And it's Saul Bass. So looking at logos, this is something that's really important that we're going to look at the rest of this talk. Is every logo is one of three things or a combination of three things. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put this full size so you can see it. Again, it's in the Discord if you want to see it there. But every logo is made up of one of three things, right? So up in the left there, we have an icon, and an icon is what it looks like, right? Twitter, it's a bird. Here's a graphic representation that looks like a bird, right? So over here, an icon would be a rabbit. We have a rabbit. It's a rabbit, right? It just looks like what it is. So next up is a symbol. And symbol is something that is understood within a cultural context and something that like is built around an actual object that doesn't mean anything. So the symbol, this is for Toyota. This doesn't say Toyota. It doesn't look like a Toyota. It isn't anything, right? And so this allows us to understand something within a context. And next up, we have an index, and an index is something that gives information or instruction. And I love the AutoZone logo because the index of it leaning and then these indexes of the lines giving us motion are showing us that it's moving, that it has some kind of momentum to it, which gives us information about AutoZone getting you moving, getting back on track. And so every logo is one of these three or combinations. Getting it in the zone.
With AutoZone, don't ever change AutoZone, please.
Oh no,
don't ever rebrand.
Never.
You don't need to.
Absolutely not. So these are the three things that you need to pay attention to when you're making a logo. Over the next few weeks, we will be teaching you how to make different kinds of logos, and I'll be referencing this slide pretty much every single day. Yeah. So screenshot it, set it as your background because we're going to be coming to that a lot.
There's your new wallpaper.
Yep. So we talked about all the history leading up to now. Nick, where are we going next?
Get into it. Yeah, logos today. This is like where we are with the great stuff on there. Gosh, you can imagine probably every shape, size, symbol has been used probably thousands of times. And then it's your interpretation of what you can do to it. But just remember that these things are supposed to, my favorite line to say is they start the conversation of the brand. They
Ooh,
shouldn't do everything.
that's
They should
great.
just start the conversation. And then other things, other applications of it, a business card with that on there, whatever, are bookmarks to the conversation
Yep.
or for another time. And this consistency and all that. It's just, to me, the funnest thing to be a part of and work with. To me, I think, again, they are the signature to what you want to portray everything about that business and that brand and whatever it is. These are just some great ones. And one of my favorite, we'll talk about resources and things too, but to me, Logo Lounge does one of the best jobs of putting together these logo trends, and you can start to kind of understand each component and what they are. And it's just good to know how other designers are doing this successfully and sometimes, unsuccessfully as well.
Yep, absolutely. And someone in the live chat has a question.
Sure.
Even after being explained to me, I still understand the index concept. Just need to see more examples. Okay, so here's the way that I like to think about indexes. If you see smoke, what does that mean?
There's fire.
Right? So a smoke indicates that there is fire. It is an index. So you don't have to see the thing, but it implies something or gives you a direction. So an arrow would be an index because it's telling you to move forward, right? It's not pushing you, but it's telling you to move forward, right? Let's say that mud on the ground could be an index for someone walking, right? So it's things that imply that you don't actually see it, but it gives you information that something else is more. Yeah, so exactly, an index is an indicator. All right, so Nick, can you say that thing again one more time about the conversation? Because that's the greatest way I've ever heard a logo.
The logo should start the conversation of the brand, and it should not do more than that. I think that's the thing. A lot of times, I think even in some of my early questionnaires to clients, I would put, what are the things your logo should say? And if you leave it that open-minded or open-ended, you're going to get, 20 different things that someone thinks the logo should be. And it should only do one, if not maybe two things. Let it just be the beginning of the conversation. Don't let it should not have any more responsibility than that.
Absolutely. And we just had a bunch of people join. So hello, people who are probably coming from Twitter. Nice to see you. This happens every week. Welcome to Office Hours. We're a show that's helping you level up your creative careers. Right now, we're starting a 5-week logo bootcamp. So if you want to, Nick, when are we here?
We're here every Friday at 2:30 p.m. Pacific time, behance.net/Adobe Live. Yeah, and this is week 1, guys. So we've got 4 more weeks of this logo bootcamp that we can't wait to share with you guys. And we're not making a booklet.
We're not making a booklet. Not making a booklet. Oh, it says over there how to make a booklet. Look at
right there.
Wow.
Look at that.
Again, welcome to Office Hours, where it's a beautiful dumpster fire. All right, so Nick, let's talk about logos today. What is important about a logo today?
Yeah, my first thing here is the whole idea about grabbing attention. It is such a crazy, busy world of all these brands competing for attention, like everyone's just standing up trying to raise their hand. And I think that's a first thing to think about, and particularly in branding, packaging, you name it, grabbing the attention of the consumer or the target person that you have in mind is 100% the first thing to really kind of consider. Because how else are you going to do all the other things after that if you haven't gotten their attention with simple logos like the one that we're showing on the screen? I think there's something about the idea of like building the voice, building the pillars of the brand, and making sure your logo are basically communicating that to the right person. So this bear logo, perfect idea. Fat Bear Coffee Bar, right? This idea that it's like, let's say they wanted homey, comforting, they wanted inviting, friendly, nature, all of those great words. They've put it all together in a quite, simple logo. I love the idea of having the negative cup, with the little drip there. It's the simplest way of showing something with the most conversation that you can. One of my favorite things I say in my class is say the most with the least. If the logo can do that, that to me is my favorite. Yep. And do you agree? Just this idea of grabbing the attention is really number one, right? That's the first thing we want to do.
Yeah, and I've actually heard it described before as using the KISS method. Have you heard about the KISS method?
Yes. Keep it simple, stupid.
Keep it simple, stupid. It's like one of my favorite things that it's just a great way to think about creating logos is try to keep it so simple. And Nick, how do you make something stand out? That's like a question for me is, right, we're talking about,
Yeah.
we have to make it stand out. How do you do that without it getting lost in the noise of like the million other
Sure.
things that happen?
I think one is clarity, making sure you're not going too far into detail and into small nuances. You're keeping it big, bold, and identifiable from far away. Then there's color. Color can obviously do that. Contrast is a big way you can kind of get that. So having lights and darks, not having too much muted kind of value within the logo. And then just scalability, right? Like I want to know that this is going to work on my watch, and I want to know it's going to work on a billboard. So to me, those are those things that I think could really grab attention without it. That's almost, isn't it funny? All those things are stripped down, simplicity kind of focused, and yet it's trying to be in your face and getting attention. It's
Yep.
kind of a bit of an opposite, but it works.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
And if it looks like I'm looking all over, I'm trying to fix the little lower third. That's the reality. It's not going to happen. It's
That's okay. Everyone
it's-
knows.
Yeah.
They know why we're here.
Imagine that says Logo 101.
Yes, there you go.
All right, so let's talk about logos today. First strong impression. Why is this important, Nick?
Yeah, just like we said, if you are putting the conversation to the beginning moment there of like a brand talking to the consumer, the only way you're going to do that is a strong impression. That's the first impression. I don't think you really get that chance to kind of make a second impression when it comes to a brand. I was saying this to my students the other day, and I want everyone to think about the last time they were at a store and going to grab and make a decision between a product and another product, maybe even a competitor. What made you choose the brand that you did if you've never tried these brands before? I think the first impression is those things like, did they do the job that logo, even this, the color, if it was a yoga studio and they wanted peace, tranquility, simplicity, those were those keywords that were doing it. Something like this would make a really great first impression without, again, going too far detailed.
Yep.
If that icon got more detailed, it had more leaves, then imagine shrinking it down. You're not going to see that from far away. So there's a great balance there, and all of those things add up to you making a really good first impression with whatever the logo you are working with.
Yep. And we talked a little bit about this, of the noise of logos that are happening right now, right? We see so many logos. It's really important to be memorable. And it's really
Yes.
hard to do that now because there are so many logos out there. But I think that I just saw someone, oh man, it's going to kill me if I don't remember who it is. They were talking about concept-driven design, and I thought it was the most interesting Twitter thread. So Nick, can you talk about being memorable? And I'm going to look for that Twitter thread real quick and see if I can bring it up on screen.
I was just going to ask the chat to kind of chime in and tell us what new logo within the last 5 years or so do you feel can join this collage here of memorable logos. So do you guys remember, I think it was about 2 years ago, someone put that thing out, like we asked non-designers to draw the Burger King logo or draw the Starbucks logo. And it was that idea of how memorable is the logo to the consumer? Can they draw it? And some of them really, I think there's some really good kind of examples out there. But here's a great example. Like I love these ideas of like Apple, Nike. Yes, we can look at those and say, of course, those are memorable because we've seen them 1,000 times. Now, if Nike's was brand new, it would need the years and years that it already has to be memorable.
Yep.
But what other things can we do to be memorable? I think have you ever heard of this thing about like if you can combine both familiarity and surprise and newness into a concept, you've won the hearts of everybody. Like that to me is the perfect combination. So I want to see something new, but I want to see something trusted and familiar.
Yep.
And I think a lot of these have that vibe. Like the Twitter one is perfect. We've never seen a bird done in that simple kind of vibe and in that blue color. And it's this idea, remember the old one wasn't ascending. It was kind of like looking straight to the right rather than like a little bit uplifting and
Yes,
tilted.
absolutely.
Now all of a sudden there's a bit of optimism and happiness to it. And it's kind of like funny. That's kind of totally opposite of Twitter. Like in the last few years.
They're trying, yeah.
Sorry
Amazon.
for the commentary.
So, yeah, somebody in chat is saying Amazon. I agree. Amazon's a great one.
That
And
smile is all they need now, right? Like they've
yes,
stripped it down to that. Starbucks with just the mermaid. They don't even have Starbucks in the official logo anymore. It's just the mermaid, right? Those kinds of things are really what will. Now, time is the biggest key, I think, to memorable because it has to be repeated. It has to be seen a few times.
yep. And
But think of something that has been new and what you think. Yeah, I think that's a great one. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, when we talk about something becoming a symbol, right? If I go back in these slides and we talk about a symbol, right? We look here. A symbol is understood with the context. This is like everything on that page, right? It's Nike. It's all of these different logos have become symbols for the Target, Pepsi, McDonald's,
Airbnb.
Nike, Airbnb,
Beats.
Windows, Beats. It's all just a symbol, and it takes a long time to understand a symbol because it's just understood, right? You have to build that kind of reference. And I did find that thread that I think is really interesting. It's by our friend Brandon Moore, Be More Creative on Twitter. And it's talking all about this idea of concept-driven design. And it's such a great thread for looking at logo design, at branding, of the reasoning that he picks the things that he does. There is a reason for every piece of the logo. So if you're looking for good logo kind of process, this is a great thread. I'll go ahead and drop it in the chat. And our moderator, I will not drop it in the chat. Who's modding for us? Elizabeth, I'll put it in Discord for all of you right now. And then if you want to join our Discord again, Nick, where's that Discord link?
It is right below us there. You can see it. Boom, 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 boom.
Boom. So I just dropped that into our Discord. Go join the Discord. Check out that thread. All right. Continuing on.
Yeah, let's get into it.
Let's talk more logo. Separate from the crowd. We kind of have already talked about this.
But, I'm dealing with this right now with a client. This is, I think, our number one job. Originality, standing out from the crowd, all these things, but being separate from them is a way to look at the competition of whatever you're working on. And this is a great example. If everyone is doing the coffee bean over and over and over again, why would you want to even join the party with the same thing, right? Finding a unique thing, and I think your explanations of like walking, if it's an outdoor company, you could do it with the splat of mud. Like that doesn't even have to be, or the trail of the imprint of the shoe. That can, if everyone else is showing a hiker in their logo and you do that, you're separating yourself from the crowd. But don't forget, I think you're still connecting to the context of what you're trying to say or what the brand is. So, when everyone's zigging zag, it's kind of that same idea.
It is.
And it's so important to do the competitive analysis of any brand you're working on. And a client or a company you're working for will appreciate that so much, because once you do that, then you've basically future-proofed, I think the whole working relationship with them down the road, because you can always fire back and be like, remember, we want to be separate, but still part of the same party. And I think this is a great example of how you can do that without following what everybody else is doing.
Yeah, you want to be the star of the party. I like that.
Exactly.
So logos obviously create faster brand loyalty. And this, to me, is when the symbol starts to work, right?
Yeah.
When you have people that are brand loyal, if you put that symbol on something, right, you'll buy it just because that logo is on there. That's a great symbol. But that is a combination of both the visual and the entire marketing team, all of that going through. So this is really important.
And that's also the first sign of probably being counterfeited too. Think of anything that has been this simple on packaging, the Gucci logo, the Apple logo, right? All these things. They've done such a great job that it hits a whole new level that they know that's the only thing that you're looking for. The Tiffany box, right? All of these different things that kind of identify and foster this loyalty to a brand. And Apple's done it great, I think, too. Whereas, how many times have you been asked by a client the same idea? Like, I want a box as simple as the iPhone box.
Yeah.
And you can't.
You can't.
It took them 20 years to build up to that kind of situation where they can do that and be that confident. So let the client know that that's a possibility down the road. But right now, let's do our own leading. Let's not just follow.
Yep, exactly. You have to give that information until you don't need to give the information.
Yes, exactly.
And so, I mean, you've seen in the past with Apple, it had Macintosh logo. It used to say Apple. It had it there, and now they have given the information. We all know the information, and so it's able to just not have it. And someone in chat, let me look here, in the live chat said, um, Gabriel, Gabriel, one of those two. So 60 years ago, the creation of a logo was entrusted to a creative team, experts in the field, and this process was done with paper, pencil, and creating two true design pieces. Now, with the internet, logos are created in seconds. Put your company name here, and it makes our work fall behind. Plus, many left the creative processes of research and design.
I'll debate that.
Now,
I'll debate that.
okay, yes. So I do want to talk about a couple things. Is one, if you would like to do that, you can check out Creative Cloud Express. So Creative Cloud Express, it's a great resource. There are a ton of tutorials about like logo making and piecing things together. I will say that that is not the most proprietary, and it doesn't always work the best in the long run, but it is a fantastic place to start. Like, I am not mad if you make your logo in 10 seconds if you're a small business. Like, I'm not mad about it. Eventually, I think there will be a need for you to invest and kind of create a big one, but use Creative Cloud Express, put something on your packaging, and just get started, right? Nick, what would you say to that?
Oh, I think that's a true sign. If you have taken that route, you're not a designer. You're not. I agree with everything he just said, but to me, it's our job to make sure it still is important and it is looked at and it is developed over time. Yes, there are tools to turn it in. I could do a logo in 40 seconds. Okay, yep. Is it good? Could I luck out and have maybe an exception? Maybe, there's a chance, but 99.9% of the time, it's got to come with all those other things. So if there's one thing we could really push here as a group here, let's all lean in a little bit and kind of talk a little. This is real talk.
Secrets.
Be a real designer and give the person and that company the chance to have something better. And that's how you get more money. That's how you charge more for this stuff. Like, so don't let those other things that someone can get something for $40 and in 5 minutes ruin our industry.
Yep.
No.
Absolutely.
That's our pact. Is that our pact, everybody?
I think that's our pact.
Throw me a hands up in the chat.
Oh yeah, get some
I
thumbs
firmly
up
believe in that.
So I think that the thing that people are talking about when they're saying like, oh, they just like type out their name and like that's their name, is they're talking about this first kind of logo. So we're going to be covering over the next 4 weeks every kind of logo that you can make. And so, Mick, what is the first one? And this one gets so much flack. What is the first category of logo?
I know, and what a shame, because word marks are just that. These are word marks. They are made up of typography, the name. You could have these things like the little star in the R. Obviously, we all know the FedEx thing has the negative arrow. But what's neat about this is just allowing for more of a signature, right? Colors plays a big part in this. Notice we know those. We can look at those colors of FedEx and know it a mile away, right? Just by the association of those colors. But they communicate in a way where I think sometimes these work great. I'd love to have one like this to me, because like I think sometimes if you could do it in this way, I think Google's a perfect example that's working for them. They don't need a icon or a mark, and maybe it makes sense for them in the consciousness of us as consumers that it has to be more personable, and it won't get any more abbreviated than that.
Yep. And so
what do you think?
Next week, we are going to be talking all about Wordmarks. So set your calendars, 2:30 Pacific time, right here, Behance.net/Adobe Live. We're going to be talking about Wordmarks and show you how to make a wordmark, but we're also going to talk about this idea that's known in the industry as the blending. It's something, right, that we see these logos happen that are just like black logos with just typed out in like Gotham New or whatever. We're going to talk about the concept behind that and why I'm not mad about it and how to separate that and maybe even work there. To me, that is the level beyond having a symbol. I think that's the new level, is just having the type in black. And I think that's the pinnacle of design, branding design right now. So many people, that's such a hot take, but I think that it is higher than having a symbol at this point. So we're talking about Wordmarks next week. And then the week after that, we're talking about Logomarks. Nick, what's a Logomark?
These are those ones like we just talked about, the icon like the Nike swoosh, the Apple logo, the Twitter, and I think Target, boy, like they just nailed it. Like who else can do anything in the world of a Target or a Bullseye at this point, right? They kind of own that. But these usually don't have the company name attached to them. Just the opposite of what we talked about with like maybe what Google's intention is. These are the ones that I think might be even more international companies. So then they're not worried about the word and the translation. This works more universally.
Yup.
This can be just the watermark or the mark on like the packaging or something like that, and it says everything.
Yep.
Again, it needs time. I don't think you can just come out with one maybe tomorrow and it work immediately. It will take time and a lot of money to get the impressions to the public, but I'm a big fan of them. I don't know if I'd ever say I'll have one, but what do you think?
Yeah, I think that they are very important. I almost think that they're
Yes.
not as important as some other things, but I do think that it is important to be able to evolve to just have a symbol. I think it's important to have one.
Yeah.
But again,
Yes.
I am a stickler that I would always want it to be a type. Like I would always want it to just be a type logo. And I was
Yeah.
curious, again, I'm just getting so distracted during the show, but like that's how we're doing it. I was looking at like where Target has come from, which I thought was interesting. So I was like, yeah, they couldn't have just had that logo forever. So they had this crazy ring logo for a while, and then it looks like they went to like this outline type. Then
Yes.
they moved to this, and it looks like maybe okay, this is the worst way to lay something out. 1974,
It's
they
one of
went.
those timelines there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which I love for the voice of Target. Okay, we're going to talk about like Logomarks and Wordmarks, all caps Target, right? Target. Look here,
Yes.
Target. It's all red, right? It is screaming at you in all caps with red. You go into Target, that's not kind of the vibe, but you look here, Target. Welcome to Target, right? They went lowercase and it
love
gave
it.
you that Target vibe, right? You want to go there on a Tuesday and just walk around listening to Taylor Swift, right? Here, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so stressful. And here, wow, it's like kind of gotten a little bit more of a chill vibe.
Target wants to be friends.
Target wants to be
right now,
friends. They just
right?
wanna, like,
It's
hang
kind
out.
of yeah, and we have two Targets that one has had the new lowercase and one has not put the lowercase on it. And it's quite a difference. I think even from the storefront, and the logo didn't change. It's just the type case,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And all of a sudden, it is this instant friendly vibe. I love that they changed that. It's a slow rollout because imagine rolling that out all across the country.
Let's
That's
change
crazy.
everything. Yeah. And so the next
Yeah.
one is that combination that we were just talking about, is a combination mark that is a combination of the two. And I think these get really interesting because there are some that can't exist without the type or can't exist
Yeah.
without the mark, and some that can break apart. And so I think it's interesting. And Nick, what's your kind of one, what is a combination mark? And two, what is your vibe on having a combination mark that has to be together versus one
Yeah.
that can break apart?
Yeah, so you've got kind of the best of both worlds of what we just talked about. You've got the logo type and you have the logo mark combined into this one logo. And the text and the image of the icons combined, I think together, that definitely they're strong. But Lacoste is probably the perfect one where I think this is a successful one because it can go either way. I think, wouldn't it be interesting? I think the alligator alone is stronger than Lacoste on its own.
I actually
you?
really don't like the Lacoste type. I think it feels default and
you're
like
right.
not customized enough.
But even if it was,
but I love the
it was
alligator.
great or better. I don't think you ever see Lacoste by itself. You do see the alligator by itself.
Yep.
Which is kind of a good one.
And
That's kinda
Doritos,
neat.
I believe that Doritos has just started using the like triangle
Yes.
on stuff, and I hate it so much.
Didn't work.
It
I don't
does
think it worked in
not
any
work
way.
for me. Yeah, it doesn't
They tried
communicate.
to they tried to do that ad campaign going like, you know, you don't need to know anything more on our bag but just this triangle, and it kind of fell flat. It was kind of like,
Yeah.
guys, you're just a chip, like calm
But
down.
but that is the transition that needs to happen, and that proves why it's so hard to create a symbol logo and why you
Yeah.
should never start there. Because
Yeah.
literally Doritos tried to do it, and people were like, "No," right? And so
Yeah.
if you're not bigger than Doritos, don't try to start by creating a symbol. It's not going to be a
right.
great idea. It eventually evolves
yeah.
to that. Yeah. So
Yeah,
next
yeah.
up we have logo systems, and Nick, we'll be covering this in 3 weeks from today.
Yes.
We'll be talking all
Yeah.
about logo systems. What's a logo
This
system?
is my
That's a little bit different.
favorite thing for all of us to know and really get to be good at, because like every time you do a logo project, you should not just be doing one logo and being like, said and done, here's a JPEG, here's a PNG, you know, let's go. What I love about these is there's two different ways. Let's look at the true television channel here at the bottom. That is like your logo system, meaning like you've got different colors, you've got different icons. It might be without that logo, it might be just the TRU. There's all of those different ways we can take a logo and make a system out of it. But what I love now is this like elevated version of logo systems like you see on the top, where it's like the same brand, the same elements, but it has these interchangeable parts. It might take the layout and shift it a little bit differently for each one. I think the MIT Media Lab is a perfect one. You can see it's made up of the same things, but it changes per maybe category or organization within that family brand.
Yep.
Those are my favorites. I'm dying to do one like that because I think that's the future of like what branding can go.
Yep. That's really the only, when I'm doing a branding project, that's the only thing I'll do. And it takes
very much your world.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It takes me forever to convince them that they don't need a logo, that like, I like to call them identifiers. And I'm like, I'm going to build you a system of identifiers so that you can understand and recognize wherever it is. And I think that is like the future. So my favorite example of this is the city of Melbourne. Melbourne has, this branding is so good. It is this M shape, but they have all these different patterns and 3D, and they'll put events in it and all this stuff. This system is just absolutely gorgeous. So go look that up. Rebranding the city of Melbourne.
And don't forget too, MTV was kind of the first one to mess with this because of the freedom they had, that they lived more digitally than they lived more print. So if it was print, it's so hard, right? You gotta stick to one and go with it. But when they are their own channel and they're digital, all of a sudden that flexibility opens up. And it was beautifully followed by a buddy of mine, Sean, did the TBS logo. Now that has become the new kind of MTV logo in the same way. It's like an empty vessel, and it can be filled any way you want.
Yep. So this is my story. All right, let's do some story time. I don't have a story time screen, but I wish that I had a story time screen. This is a story from history about the MTV logo. So the MTV logo was created. It was great. And they had it up on a digital screen. And one of the art directors went into the studio and started kind of just like twisting knobs and pushing buttons, right? And started messing with this logo that was on the screen. So they actually kept the other designers out of the room because they didn't want to see him like mess. They're like, oh man, we don't want to like mess with the logo. We have this new logo. We're getting brand recognition. Like we can't do it or whatever. Kept pushing buttons, creating all these crazy combinations and tearing it and blowing it up. And that became the vibe and the visual identity of MTV, right? That logo is not sacred. And that was so revolutionary at the time that the logo was able to just be absolutely destroyed. And that was the spirit of MTV, right? And so it all came down, again, having that opportunity to go digital and just start pushing buttons and messing it up allowed for more exploration, which I think is great.
Yeah, it was like it was taken into an arts and crafts room and someone got to tear it up, put it back together, spray over it, go under. It was just crazy. I love it. So This is great.
So let's talk about logos today, because this is this will be coming up in 4 weeks. Again, we're just previewing the shows that are coming up. We're doing 5 weeks of logos here if you're just joining us. Nick, what's a responsive logo system? Because this is fairly new. This is like the last couple of years.
If you want, get that page ready, because maybe we can show it off. That page on the Read More guys will show you how this works. But basically, because of screen size, because of the fact that your logo and websites have to be so adaptable, what this is allowing you to do is create different sizes of your logo automatically. And you've probably seen this on some websites, but wait till you see this great one. Now change the size of your window.
That was not the intent of what we wanted. Hold on,
there we go.
All right.
Okay, so now like move it diagonally and you'll see. Now watch how these logos, see how they get abbreviated? They'll get abbreviated even more, and they'll get to their final, just their logo on its own. If you probably scroll up with it too, it will do it one more time. Now go, like it should go all the way up to just Coke.
Oh, it won't really take the window any smaller.
Gotcha.
But in theory, just imagine that.
Yeah, our slide here shows you all the stages of how it will work. And look at like the Kodak film one, right? It goes Kodak film. It's got the K. It's got the slice things, and then film. Then it goes to Kodak and just the emblem, then just the emblem, and then even a simpler emblem. I love the New Balance one as well. That's a really neat one, the way that works.
Yep. I have never seen this Chanel logo ever used. This is awesome. That's so genius.
It's true. I've never seen that one. Maybe it's just certain levels. But here's the other thing, guys. If you're doing a logo for someone, create responsive versions of it. That's adding like
Yes.
2 to 3 more levels of things you can charge for. And again, like I almost think this is a mandatory inclusion to any logo package at this point now. It has
Absolutely.
to be there.
You have to have it because there's so many applications that are going to use it in different ways. So let's keep tracking here. And I do want to shout out our Discord happening right down here. Nick and I are going to go through our favorite logos. And we're going to look real quick at just some amateurs versus some professionals. And then we're going to talk about our favorites. But we want to know your favorites.
Yeah,
so
start putting them in there, guys.
Join the Discord here and then go into the voice channel and we'll bring you on the show. You can hang out and chat about voice. And I do want to call something out just because I'm excited. I think this is the most live viewers we've ever had in a show. So thanks for watching, everybody. This is awesome. We're not leaving yet. I just wanted to shout that out.
Leave it to logos.
Leave it to logos. All right. So let's talk about this. Amateurs versus professionals. I don't think we need to say a lot on this. Amateurs on the left, don't do those. Professionals on the right, do those. Right? Can I
say one thing? Because I show this slide to students every time we start a logo project. It's not a big leap from going from one side to the other. You can go from the amateur to the pro with just fine tuning, with just simplicity, all the things we talked about. You can change and make anything of that amateur side pro level very quickly. And I think that's probably the best message with logos in general, right?
Yep, absolutely. And someone in the live chat is asking, how much more should we charge for responsive logos? I think you should include it in the quote in general. I would say if they just want a logo to convince them on the upsell of a logo system, I would say like a 30% increase. How would you feel about that, Nick?
Yeah, I look at it this way. It's like you've already created probably the logo. So stripping it down to 3 or 4 more smaller ones, I don't know if that really adds too much, but to me, what it's going to do is it's going to probably make them not balk at the main price that I give them because it's part of the thing. It's, you know what I mean? It's like a la carte, it's not a lot more, but as a whole system, I think it gives you a better chance to ask for more.
Yep.
Whatever your percentage is.
Yep, absolutely. So looking at better logos, make better brands, very obvious. If you have a great logo, then it can build into a great brand. And this is what we're talking about when we're talking about kind of the modernness of a brand is you have a logo, it just becomes a symbol for everything else, right? It's become
How many
a symbol
times
for
have you
everything else.
worked with something where maybe it was a logo from someone else, or even maybe a logo you did, and it's not the easiest logo to work with when you build out the brand? So give yourself a break. The better logo makes for a better brand in all applications.
Yep, absolutely.
Perfect example.
So let's talk about ours as we go into the next 4 weeks, 4 weeks of logos. This will give you some context for what our favorite logos are. Nick, what are your favorite logos?
I love Saul Bass. I love everything he has created. I like even the ones he has done that have been since updated, like United Airlines and Continental. Those to me are just, and that the wool logo as well. Oh my God, like that to me started the trend. The AT&T logos that he's done. But what's funny is my favorite logo of current day is the New Era logo. I love everything about that logo. I think it stands the test of time. It's scalable, it's appropriate, it's timeless, and it works in both reverse and negative. It is just perfect. I think it's one of my favorite, and I love the flag version of it and the way they incorporated the N and the E, and then just their word mark alone is, again, like I don't think it ever needs a rebrand, and I don't know if there's a lot of logos you can really say.
I'm bored. It's so funny how we have different opinions on logos. I'm bored by the New Era. I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. I think all the other stuff is amazing, but yeah, it's interesting, and there can be a lot of opinion on logo, and I think that it comes down to the business, right? Then Nick and I have talked about some past episodes. If you want to go watch it, it's all about what the goals are. And so even though I look at the New Era logo and I'm like, man, I'm kind of bored, right? If I'm making this logo, even if I feel bored with it, if it's accomplishing the goal that the client has set forward, that's a win.
It's successful,
right? It's successful. Yeah. So it doesn't really matter what you like. It's if it serves the goal of the project. So
totally.
For me, I love logos that are more on the type side. And so I've picked out some of my favorites. We've got the Chomp logo. Of course, we're always repping Chomp here on Office Hours. So that is my favorite logo of all time. I think that it has so much emotion and story and just like visceralness to it that like there's a lot of great logos, but for me that Chomp logo, just something special about it, just tells a story. the Spice World tour that they did in 2019, I loved that globe logo. People have done the globe logo a million times, but for some reason, this is the one that I'm like, man, that is such a solid logo with that type on there. The Young Jerks, Dan and Dan, the Casaro and Dan Christofferson. What's the other Dan's name?
Is it Can?
B Teeth. B.
Oh.
He's the Dans.
There you go.
The dads of design. Their logos, it's all typographics, awesome. This Garbage Mouth logo is by Titus Smith, incredible designer. It's just gorgeous. And of course, the Chili's logo. You got to get the Chili's logo. And the thing that gets me with the Chili's logo is the stem being the apostrophe. I think that's just so smart. Baby back ribs.
Barbecue sauce.
Yes. So these are my favorite logos. And this kind of gives some context for as we go into the next few weeks. It'll be easier for you to understand kind of where we're coming from. Now, I do want to definitely hop over into the Discord. Again, right down here, discord.gg/ACC.
Oh, yes.
We've got about 5 minutes left, and we're going to reserve that 5 minutes for you live chat. Excuse me. So if you want to, go ahead and go to that Discord and ignore how to make a booklet. Just pay attention to the type below it, and go to the classroom chat right over here. Join that voice chat. And our friend Elizabeth is going to let me know if one of you would like to come on the show and talk to us about your favorite logos. And it does look like there's some happening in here. Christelle is saying my favorite logo is courageous. Is this courageous? This is not courageous. It's courageous, Nick.
Let's see.
Courageous. That's how you would pronounce it, right?
Courageous. Yes.
Yeah.
Something in there. It's got the accent, so I can't I'm going to butcher it anyway. That's
right?
my sign.
This is interesting. Nick, what do you think about this logo? What's happening here?
Ooh, I think to me it feels like it's behind. It's kind of like coming out from behind the word. There's something kind of cool there as well. It's definitely unique, and I've never seen it before. I wonder too if it's scalable. That could be a little bit of an issue with some of the thinner lines.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm gonna guess it's fashion or in some kind of a thing like apparel.
Yeah, I'm gonna actually look it up. Oh, courageous. Let's see. It has to be fashion. It is indeed fashion. It is French fashion.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay.
There's another one I can't, and maybe chat would know. There was an ice cream brand or something that came out about 2 or 3 years ago, and I believe it's a smile, and it's got the word written in. It's like the smile and the lips of someone like enjoying ice cream, and then it's all the words. Does anybody remember what that one was?
I don't remember that.
I gotta find
but
that.
The Verizon logo. Okay, I hated the Verizon logo gradients as well. And I know that Michael Beirut, when he redid this,
changed it.
There was like all this controversy and whatever. I think it's like the most genius rebrand ever. Like that, he added just a little check mark to the end of the word, and people was like, "Oh, it's just a little check mark." It is genius because they've used it in so many places, and it's so recognizable now. The Paramount logo.
Iconic.
What do you think about Paramount logo?
It's iconic. I think it's as like Coca-Cola. I don't think you can change it.
Yep.
I really don't.
And I do think, let me look real quick. Nick, you can keep looking at Discord and chat. I saw somebody tweet about like a Paramount animation title card that looked so good. It was just like a twist.
Is it for the new network?
I think so. It was here it is. Yes. Oh man, I am killing it on the Twitter game today. So this is a few takes. Let's see. This is by Klaus Studio. It is gorgeous. And again, it's taking that iconic system and turning it into a new look. How fun is this?
Oh my gosh. Now, is this someone's work or is it real for them?
I don't know the answer to that. A few takes on Paramount Animation logo rebrand. They went with an entirely 3D direction, but these were a blast to explore anyway. So these were explorations. But still, what a great way to innovate a logo that everyone knows, that everyone has seen.
That is really nice. I like that the mountains can change just slightly because they're using like unique little patterns and stuff in there.
Yes.
It's driving me crazy.
Do you want to know something about the Paramount logo? So the Paramount logo, I believe that this is true, and you can count them. I believe it has 23 stars. And do you know what those 23
or 20? Oh, I thought it was like 27, but go for it.
Maybe 27. Do you know what those stars represent?
I remember being told that because my first job was on the Paramount Studios lot.
Who are you? Y'all, I just know that every time Nick and I talk,
my intern.
he like says something that I'm like, what is your life? Like, we've been doing this show for almost 2 years and I still don't even know who this man is.
I lasted like 3 weeks.
Okay,
It was
so,
an internship. It was terrible.
The Paramount logo, yes, the stars are there and they actually represent the movie stars that would live on the lot, right? That you would sign a person to the studio. So Paramount would basically own a contract with 27 people and they could only do Paramount logos. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that's where the term star comes from, is from the logo. I believe that that's true. I'm not fully sure, but I think that that's true.
What a neat way that stems from this.
Yep, absolutely. And again, that would be a great example of a symbol, right? That they have these stars and they symbolize and represent the actors that they have. And then it turns into this symbol that, like, you see the Star Walk of Fame. Like, these stars have turned into just, it represents a star, a movie star, right?
That's really cool.
Somebody fact check me on that. But I do think that that's actually, I think that that's true. I think that that's the way that it worked. So Nick,
cool.
That's all the time we have left. Thanks everybody for tossing in your suggestions there. Nick,
that was fast.
What's coming up next week?
Next week is Wordmarks.
Yes.
I was ready.
Yes, Nick is ready. We are talking about Wordmarks next week, and we're doing 5 weeks all about logos. So tune in, set your calendar. Next Friday, 2:30 p.m. Pacific time, behance.net/Adobe Live. Put it on your calendar. We'll be doing some logos. We'll be showing you how to make a logo mark and how to unbland your brand. Oh, that was so good. That was a good landing.
Wow.
With that,
did you have a little post-it on your screen with that one?
I have so many post-its on my screen, Nick, and nothing that I say is actually coming from me. All right. Yeah, we're here. All right. Well, thanks so much for hanging out. It was a super fun show. Thanks everyone for joining us. This was our highest live views, I think, ever. So my heart's happy. We'll see you next week. Please come back.
Have a great weekend.
Bye.